Hello everyone, and welcome back to Gents in the Dungeon.
I'm going to stop you right there. But I'm you. Stop talking. This is an editing layover. You're just giving us more work to do. And you're paused, too. Sorry, sir. It's fine. Just don't worry about it. So listen, I tried to get this video out as soon as I could. And then I went to Europe. I promise in the next few weeks, even though I will be traveling again, I'm going to schedule the upload for session 5 so we can get that out. But point is, I'm still here. I promise I'm still here. I'm still doing stuff. I could have uploaded the video before I left, but it wasn't really to the level of quality I would have liked. So I postponed it till now, so I could give you guys the best thing I could. So I want you to know everything that's taking so long. It's taking so long because I want it to be nice for you guys. Shut up. With that being said, thank you for your patience. Now let's get back into the video.
Since some of our earlier sessions had a few audio issues, as promised, we wanted to do a full recap of everything that's happened so far. And honestly, if this performs well, then we might keep doing these in the future. You just let us know. So make sure if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, subscribe, leave a like, and just let us know in the comments below. So with that being said, here's the story so far. Session 1. Welcome to Alaris. Our story began in darkness. The party didn't wake up in a tavern or on a road or in the middle of some battlefield. They woke up in nothing, a strange drifting void. There was no up or down, or barely even a sense of time. They could remember where they were, or at least partly. They knew their names, they had pieces of their past, backstory, but anything beyond that was blurry. Where they had been, how they got there, and what had happened before this moment. And then they heard something. It was a strange insect-like scratching, almost like something was skittering across their minds. Then, all at once, light broke through the darkness, and the party woke up outside the gates of the city of Alaris, a massive, beautiful golden city sealed beneath a glowing dome with vibrant, lush green vines on almost every building. They had no idea how they got there, and no memory of entering, but they were there. The party is and was as follows. Magus, a short bronze autognome with a metal mustache and a small top hat and a small yellow crystal in his chest behind a window that powered him. Murta, a rat-like creature, about as tall as Magus, they're both very short by the way, and many scars with a wooden staff and a glowing green crystal at the top. Reeves, a youngish goblin man with a large stomach and large nose, and with a hurdy-gurdy strapped to his back. He's a bard, by the way. You'll see where that comes into play later. The last of the party was Schmecklin, a garden gnome fighter. So, take a garden gnome, now make him slightly more buff, little muscles. Yeah, that's him. That's exactly what he sent me. I'm not even kidding. Also, important to note that none of the characters knew each other except for Schmecklin and Magus. It's a long story that you can learn more about if you look through the sessions, but for now, all you need to know is basically Magus serves Schmecklin as his master, and he calls him Sir. But waiting for them there were Jerry and Jane Johnson, two citizens of Laris, who had personally been asked by the High Priest, Jonathan, to welcome them. The Johnsons explained that the party was special because they were the first outsiders the city of Alaris had ever seen. They explained how Alaris was the last pure city in the entire world, and how the city was saved many years ago on the day that they called the Day of Sacred Deliverance. The Day of Sacred Deliverance was described as such. Solmir is the sun goddess of the world of Terra, which is where our story takes place. She primarily reigns over the city of Alaris, where she blesses the citizens with her protection and love. When Solmir arrived on Terra long ago, she saw that the world had fallen into savagery, and in a divine act of love, she created a dome around the city of Alaris, the only pure city left. She now still holds the dome in place, protecting and growing her holy city. As citizens grow old to the point where they would normally die, she raises them up and glorifies their souls. And as they're raised up, their soul is absorbed into the holy barrier, thus protecting the holy city and keeping the cycle alive. That's the gist of it, but there's plenty more in session 1 that explains the full thing. And if you're interested in any of these, you can check them out on our channel. Link will be in the description. They explained how the city worked. Each citizen was given a gray cloak on their 12th birthday that would change colors during a special ceremony determining their divine purpose, and could not be taken off at all once put on. If their cloak turned green, they'd be farmers. Gold were priests, blue librarians, red were the laborers, the builders, masons, metalworkers, all that kind of stuff. Brown were the stewards, purple were the judges and watchers. Deep teal or cyan were the weavers of new cloaks, and ash gray were the undetermined ones. Jerry and Jane had blue cloaks, showing their extensive knowledge of the city as librarians and historians, which is why they specifically were told to welcome the party, as it was said that the high priest of the city knew they were coming. But we'll touch more on that later. The city had no sickness, murder, no poverty, no crime. People fought sometimes, but not really out of hatred. Fighting was mainly used as a mode of entertainment, arguments, or even trade, because under the Golden Dome, their wounds healed almost instantly. But that perfection came with a terrifying side. If someone disrespected Solmir or committed a crime, there was no prison, there was no second chance. Their cloak would turn black, marking them as impure, and the entire city would be forced to hunt them down and banish them. But if they were lucky, they'd die first. As it was said, fate outside the dome, in the corrupt, savage world of Terra, was a fate much worse than death. The Johnsons took the party on a tour of the city, showing them the library, the streets, the marketplace, where the Johnsons left them for a little bit, and the Grand Celestial Temple, but we'll touch on that stuff later. Along the way, they stopped at the library, where the party received several scrolls that were copies of readings of the history and law of Alaris, along with ash-gray cloaks of their own, which they were reminded would eventually change color to reveal their roles in Alaris. They also received a leather backpack, which Magus guarded very closely. The party eventually went to the Grand Celestial Temple after being called by Jonathan, a giant golden temple in the center of the city that nearly reached the top of the dome itself. This is where they met the High Priest Jonathan himself, the only person in Alaris who was able to remove his cloak, which mattered a lot because Jonathan wore the Cloak of Divinity, the most sacred relic in the entire city, said to be given to the first High Priest themselves by Solmir herself. The cloak had already been described as something incredibly important, and seeing Jonathan wear it made it clear this was not just some ceremonial outfit. Jonathan said briefly that anybody who puts on the cloak, who is not a high priest, must die. Jonathan also told the party he had been expecting them. There was supposedly a prophecy about 5 people who would bring about the fate of Alaris. That immediately confused the party, though, because at this point there were only 4 of them: Magus, Reeves, Schmecklin, and Myrta. Jonathan admitted that not even he knew exactly what their purpose was, or who or where the 5th person of the prophecy was, but he wanted to find out. He asked them to pray with him in hopes that Solmir would answer their purpose. They didn't get a direct answer, but they all felt a deep sense of belonging and purpose, and Magus felt a connection of power. That detail hung over everything. The real problems came later. That night, the party slept in a room right next to where Jonathan kept the Cloak of Divinity, posted on a nice wooden stand. The cloak was sacred, untouchable, and tied directly to the authority of Solmir. Then somehow, Magus discovered the Cloak of Divinity inside the party's backpack the very next morning, despite having been guarding it all night out of fear that 2 other party members, Reeves and Schmecklin, might try and take it for its power. And of course, though just as Magus saw this, was when Jonathan walked in, and when the party's gray cloaks turned pitch black, the sign of blasphemy, which obviously made Jonathan think that they were trying to steal the cloak. He said he didn't want to hurt them, but this left him no choice. The situation instantly spiraled. To Alaris, this was not just theft, this was blasphemy. The city turned against them, and the party, confused, was forced to run for their lives. They quickly knocked out Jonathan with what would have been a fatal blow if it not for the healing powers of the dome, and bolted for the door. Although, of course, they had been on the top floor of the tower and had to run all the way down to the bottom before Jonathan woke up, not even knowing where they would go, because the city was full of practically immortals with a solid dome around it. Though they had nowhere to go, they remembered earlier that they'd saw display cloaks in the marketplace for a shop that would add on nice golden trims and such. They tried to go to the marketplace to get these display cloaks that they saw earlier and blend in, but it wasn't easy, since a horn had now rung and blown a signal through the entire city, saying that somebody in the city had black cloaks that needed to be taken care of. But through the help of minor illusion and Magus's quote-unquote brain, because he's an auto-gnome, they managed to make it to where the cloaks were and tried to swap them for the black ones that they had, but not before Jonathan appeared in the marketplace right behind them and stopped them. At the last moment before Jonathan got to them, in desperation, Magus put on the cloak of divinity. A giant burst of radiant light erupted around him, and then, just as before, everything went black. Session 2, Taking a Chance. The party woke up again, but this time they were nowhere near Laris. There was no golden dome, no perfect city, no constant light from Solmir. Instead, they found themselves beneath an open sky in the city of Eldora, a jungle city, in a world that felt familiar only when places were named. And next to them lay a new face, Bolgar, the Duergar barbarian, also short as well, same as the rest of the party. He immediately questioned them, asking what was going on. He explained just the other day he woke up in a strange city with a golden light. He had no idea where he was, so survival instinct kicked in. He ran as fast as he could to get out of there, and he ended up in some sort of strange park, where he hid until he heard the sounds of loud horns and yelling. Not long after that, he saw some tall, cloaked figures point at him and yell before running towards him. But just as that happened, some sort of unimaginable power burst from across the city, and the bright golden dome actually dimmed as a burst of light erupted from where he heard noises, and he felt himself being pulled towards it. And then, everything went black. The party expected this man to be the fifth person of the prophecy Jonathan spoke about. While Bulger was explaining this, Magus noticed Schmecklin was missing, and he got worried. This was his sir, after all. He worried that somehow, when he left Alaris, he might have left him behind, or swapped him out for whoever this Bolgar was. And he noticed, while he was explaining this, he was still wearing the Cloak of Divinity. As a matter of fact, he noticed that everything that they had was still with them. Everything except Schmecklin, that is, Magus's sir. Because of this, Magus, though not one of feelings, as he is a robot, obviously, began looking for him, and spent nearly the whole session doing so, while also trying to help the party. They didn't fully remember the world, but when they heard certain names, something in them recognized it. This also was when the group met John Amos, a knight of the King's Guard who stood above them as they laid on the ground, asking, "What are you doing in the middle of the city square?" John quickly revealed something, though, that completely changed everything that they thought they knew. When the party had explained to him where they came from, the city of Alaris, John said, Alaris had supposedly been destroyed 100 years ago. According to the outside world, the city was wiped out by a meteor during an event known as the Day of Falling Fire. The area around Alaris was said to be ruined and poisoned by radiant fallout, making it impossible for anyone to enter or survive. And yet, the party had just been there. That raised a massive question. If Alaris was destroyed a century ago, then where would the party have actually been? Was the city somehow standing? Was it trapped in the dome? Was history wrong? Or is something stranger happening? Even more concerning was the timing. Later they found out that the Day of Falling Fire happened around the same time as the Burning Age began. The Burning Age was described as a still ongoing long era of war, famine, and other terrible things that had been shaping the world for the last 80 years. That connection made it seem like the fall of Alaris and the state of the world might not just be related by coincidence. Though a loose connection, it still got gears turning. John brought the party to a map maker who gave them a map of the world for free because he owed John a favor. John turned out to be a very well-known person in the city of Eldora, as it were. As the party looked at the map, they got a sense of familiarity, but their memories were still foggy, and they saw right on the area of the map where it was labeled Alaris, and a giant crater was drawn in. From here, John took him to the young King Gents. John didn't believe their story, not quite yet, but he said he knew the young King Gents well enough that this is at least worth bringing up to him, especially due to the physical evidence they had, as John saw the cloak and scrolls that they had carried from Alaris. John then brought the party before the king and explained their story. Gents listened to their story and clearly understood how important it could be if it was true. If Alaris still existed somehow, it could change everything people believed about the world, the war, and the Day of Falling Fire. King Gents said if Alaris were real and proved a threat, which he said it sounded like they did, this could be an opportunity to end the Burning Age for good. Gents said if Alaris were anything close to what it had been before the Day of Falling Fire, his kingdom alone couldn't take it out. He explained the Burning Age had been going on for so long, not a single kingdom could, not even the two most powerful kingdoms in the world, which he said were the Kingdom of the Ivory Crown and Blackspire. He said not even these kingdoms would do anything, nor any others, compared to how long trade had been cut off and how long war had been going on. If they wanted to take out a fully operational Alaris, they would need all the kingdoms. Eldora, the jungle kingdom they're in now, Urkadu, the desert city, the Kingdom of the Ivory Crown, and Blackspire, and possibly the monster city of Cragvorn, though convincing the other kingdoms to be on their side while having the aid of a monster city would be tricky. In short, Chance believed that they could get all the major kingdoms in the world of Terra to unite against a common enemy. The unity would put an end to the Burning Age once and for all, which Chance wanted more than anything. Due to the wars, trade had been particularly cut off between kingdoms, meaning many kingdoms, including Eldora, were struggling to support the city's needs. Resources were very tight, but Chance wasn't going to send a random group of confused strangers on a major journey without testing them first. So he sent the party with the guidance of John into the jungle to deal with thieves that had been stealing supplies from Eldora. He didn't give any instructions besides take care of them in whatever way you see fit. Magus told him to consider the job done. The party found the thieves in a small camp deep in the jungle and defeated them. On paper, it was a successful mission. They recovered the supplies and proved they could handle themselves. But for Magus, something about it felt wrong. After the fight, he stood in the middle of the thieves' camp while the others gathered loot. Then he felt the wind hit him. That alone was strange. His sensors normally didn't process feelings. He wasn't alive after all. He couldn't feel, right? But then the moment became even more unsettling. He saw flashes of what just happened. The bodies that had been tossed in the fire. The mutilated corpses of the thieves, due to the party's violence, a course of action he alone decided on. And then he noticed the camp itself. There weren't piles of gold or evil trophies. The stolen goods were mostly food and clothes. And then he found signs that one of the thieves had a family. One of the thieves he himself killed. He had a wife named Penelope and a child named Thomas. The child was young, and the wife looked tired. The thief's name was Danny Spess. Suddenly, the mission didn't feel heroic. It felt eerie. Magus began to wonder whether these people had truly deserved death, or whether they had just been desperate. That moment also changed how he viewed King Chance. From that point on, Magus was suspicious of King Chance. He didn't know how to feel about a king who sent them after people who might have only been stealing to survive. The party returned to Eldora, and Chance accepted that they were capable enough for the journey ahead. John offered to travel with them, both because they needed the help and because he knew the lands better than they did. The party accepted. And with that, the party's quest truly began, and they almost were ready to leave Eldora. But not before Magus decided that he wanted to investigate King Chance in hopes of finding something against him. Or maybe even where Schmecklin was. Session 3. Under the Cover of Night. At the start of the next part of the journey, Schmecklin appeared in Eldora. His arrival was strange because he had not simply traveled there normally. After he arrived, which we'll get to in a second, he said he had been taken during the last session by some unknown intervention and brought directly outside the dome of Alaris. Where he expected to see a golden city, he saw ruins, along with a strange distortion caused by what only could have been the dome. Somehow, he spent time there without being harmed by the radiation that was supposedly supposed to make the area impossible to survive. He even tried to walk back into the city, but was met with a solid barrier right before he could reach the ruins. An illusion. And Schmecklin then arrived, such as this. Another ball of light brought him to Eldora, suddenly and quickly. Whatever force had moved the party before seemed to still be involved. And for some reason, it wanted Schmecklin to see Alaris from the outside. He appeared near the party as they were walking outside, and Magus came to greet him, happy to have his sir back. The rest of the party came too, and Schmecklin met Bolger and John, who had been walking with the party at this time. Afterwards, King Chance went over the travel plan he'd set out for them one last time. He said the plan was for them to move east to an unnamed town, where they'd catch a ship across the Great Sea to see the city of Urkadu, one of the many cities they'd have to get on their sides if they wanted to take Alaris back. From here, they began to move upwards, north, to the kingdom of the Ivory Crown and Blackspire, passing through the two towns of Wollerton and Dogwater. When Chance said the name Wollerton, John subtly spat on the ground. It wasn't a huge dramatic reaction, it was quiet, almost instinctive, but it was noticeable enough to suggest that John had a history there. Later, Magus's plan was put into motion, and they decided to investigate King Chance. Their goal was originally, firstly, to try and find anything against Chance that could suggest that he knew what he was doing with the thieves, or that he was plotting anything else. But in their search, they found files on John Amos. The files painted an ugly picture. John was connected to Dogwater and had several accusations tied to his name, including theft, gang work, and the murder of his own 7-year-old daughter. But strangely, it had all been pardoned by King Chance. Eventually, the party learned the truth behind those records by breaking into King Chance's bedroom while being chased with guards and somehow not getting hurt once. Don't ask me how they did that. When they got there, they somehow also managed to convince King Chance to call off the guards in the middle of the night that were chasing them before the party questioned him about John. Chance told the party that John had once been involved with a gang in Dogwater, doing smaller jobs while trying to survive. But eventually, the gang ordered him to do more and more, until the gang ordered him to do something unforgivable, killing the mayor's daughter. John didn't like the mayor, but why should his daughter have to pay for that? John refused. So the gang retaliated. The gang punished him by killing his own daughter and framing him for it. Chance had also been in Dogwater at that time. He was on trade business and had known John loosely for some time. He found John after everything fell apart. The accusations, the anger. He found John in his daughter's bedroom with a dagger to his throat. Chance talked to him and brought him back from the edge. He gave him a second chance in Eldora as a knight. That reveal changed how the party saw John. He wasn't just some stoic guard traveling with them. He was someone carrying a history of grief, guilt, survival. After the investigation, the party prepped to leave Eldora and continued to their next stage of the journey. But before they got far, they encountered Gregory. Gregory was a small homunculus that had appeared in Eldora, specifically at the bar where Murda had seen him and become very annoyed at him. Murda said he never actually met Gregory before the bar, but Gregory continued to insist that he did know him. He admitted that Murda didn't know him, but he said that he knew. Gregory was a small homunculus, half bat, half giraffe, half goat, or whatever it was. It was a lot of things. Picture every single animal you can think of, squish it into a 2-foot-tall little guy with a big cloak, give him a big nose. Yeah, okay, you're about right there. But with that, Gregory stood in front of the party, blocking their path as they traveled through some large rolling hills. Gregory didn't say much, but he stood and directed a message specifically to Murta. The boss wants to see you. The boss, of course, was Schnapps, who Murta described as his old master. Almost a sort of twisted father figure he ran away from years ago in search of a better life, of purpose. And Murta knew enough to not trust where this was going. Session 4. Swamp Man. The party, after some talking, reluctantly agreed to go see Schnapps, Murta's old master father figure thing. And with a snap of Gregory's fingers, everything turned white. Yeah, a lot of the first 4 sessions just started and ended with me jogging and moving the party. I've since moved on from that, but that's what a lot of this was. When they opened their eyes, they found the home of Schnapps, an old wooden-looking shack that was breaking down. When they got there, and they all got up, they saw Gregory stand up and walk in to the shack. And a moment later, they saw Schnapps step out, who was also small. Schnapps was a strange old gnome wizard, covered in swampy growths, fungi, mushrooms, and all sorts of unnatural details. His house was much bigger on the inside than it looked from the outside, though. His house was almost like a giant mansion, put together all nice, with strange rooms, creation, and homunculi. Many homunculi. But the most important thing was his connection to Myrta. Schnapps was not exactly Myrta's friend. Their dynamic was something closer to a twisted father figure, as I mentioned before, although not literally his father. Myrta was said to have been grown from a regular rat to a strange, bigger, hunched rat that he is now. A creature, quote-unquote, created, something that he definitely studied, and how Schnapps shaped parts of Myrta's past in a way that made their relationship deeply uncomfortable. Myrta repeated several times Schnapp was not to be trusted, Schnapps was evil, and they needed to leave. When Schnapp saw Myrta again, though, the reunion wasn't overly emotional. His first reaction was fascination. To him, Myrta wasn't just a person, he was something to understand. Schnapps told the party that he wanted their help in creating a new sort of homunculus. He said he tried creating it before, but he was getting advanced in years and needed help gathering materials. The materials that he needed to gather were charred wood, swamp water, swamp soil, sealed swamp, air, resin, and sulfur. We don't need to talk about what source they used for sulfur, but together, those elements covered the basis of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. The 6 elements of life. Schnapps. See what I did there? Before the party began collecting materials, they had already began planning to betray Schnapps. Myrta had made it clear he didn't want to trust them. He said he was a bad man, so the group started looking for a way to use the situation against him, as proof of their loyalty to Myrta. They agreed to split up. Bolger, Reeves, John, and Myrta convinced Schnapps to go outside with them to go show them around the swamp so that they could gather materials. Meanwhile, Schmecklin and Magus stayed behind and looted the house, searching it for anything valuable or suspicious. That search revealed more than they expected it would. Magus and Mr. Schmecklin may have found maps, logs, burnt cloths, stuff that suggested that Schnapps had been searching a battlefield for something. The evidence made it clear that whatever Schnapps had been tracking, he'd been tracking it for a long time. Eventually, everybody regrouped outside with the materials, and Schnapps began the ritual. The elements were placed together, the spell began, and the flames started forming. But before it could fully stabilize, the party attacked Schnapps mid-spell. And because of that, though Schnapps got the spell itself to a self-sustaining sort of level, the homunculus that was created wasn't exactly to its full potential. You see, during the spell, when it started, fire began to erupt from all the charred wood around, and began to come together and created a small fire elemental that Schnapps named Gary. Instead of becoming the large eternal flame that Schnapps intended, Gary emerged smaller and incomplete, and he wore a metal mask engraved with a smiley face on it. When Gary first joined the fight, though, he didn't immediately start fighting. He began to contemplate. He was contemplating who really created them. Schnapps put together all the items, and he started the spell. Remember when I said before we didn't need to talk about what they used for sulfur for the spell? Well, all I'm going to say is they used Reeves' sulfur. If you know what that means, good. If you don't worry about it. They used Reeves' sulfur, so Reeves' biological component was part of the spell, and that somehow connected Gary and Reeves. So Gary sided with the party. It got weird. The fight with Schnapps was long and chaotic. The party fought through magic, swamp energy, and vines, mainly vines, and madness of an experiment gone wrong. Eventually, Schnapps trapped the entire party in swamp vines. That was when he revealed something. He explained that he had searched battlefields. He'd searched the world for Myrta. After Myrta left, he followed him. He said he followed Myrta all the way to Dogwater in Wolverton, where he stayed there for a while, before trying to help the war effort that had been going on. When Myrta left for war, Schnapps looked across the battlefields, and he eventually found him, dead. Not just Murda. The entire party, with the exception of John, dead. Schnapps said he saw their bodies. He said he had no idea how they were standing in front of him right now. That reveal confirmed one of the biggest mysteries of the campaign so far. The party had died before the story even began, and whatever brought them back must have not been some simple chance. Schnapps left them with a warning. Whatever returned you did not do so out of kindness. And with a snap of Schnapp's finger, everything went white. And that was where the session ended. Where things stand now. So far, the party has woken up in a void, appeared inside a city that supposedly died 100 years ago, stolen or somehow received the most sacred relic in all of Alaris, been banished in a flash of light, woke up in Eldera, learned about the Day of Falling Fire, and discovered the Burning Age may somehow be connected to the fall of Alaris, possibly, and left for the unnamed town. But not before Gregory stopped them, bringing them the Schnapps, where Schnapps revealed to them that they died. And he has no idea how they are standing in front of him right now. Some other things that they've recently discovered is they met John Amos, a knight with a tragic past tied to Dogwater and Wollerton they still know little about. They met Bulger, who joined the party after their arrival in Eldera, and is said to be the fifth member of the prophecy. Magus began questioning his morality, violence, and whether King Chance could truly be trusted. Murta was pulled back towards Schnapps, a strange-like creature from his past, who had been tracking him across battlefields. The party helped create Gary, a small eternal flame and accidental fire son of Reeves, sort of. They still do not know who brought them back. They do not know why Alaris still exists, or if it still exists, for sure. They do not know what truly happened on the Day of Falling Fire. And they definitely do not know what Solmir actually wants. But one thing is clear. The party was not brought back by accident. And with that being said, that is our sessions 1 through 4 recap. If you're interested in more of this stuff, I highly recommend that you check out our other sessions. Like I said, the audio quality has been a little bit iffy, but it has been fixed. And although I might do these recaps in the future, there's still so much that I couldn't cover in just this. I mean, just casual banter between players, and all those other little moments that I couldn't fit into this. So once again, if you're interested, you can check out our channel or Spotify for future episodes. And also, I know I went a little bit fast in this recap, so I do apologize, but I need to try and get things tight for time. But if you have any questions or things you need more clarification on, please let me know in the comments down below. I do respond. And with that being said, I'll see you all in session 5.